final passage reads, "On that fated land, a great war shall transpire. Darkness will prevail, and light expire." This world is full of light. It's a world comprised of many smaller worlds, all connected, stretching as far as the eye can see. One great light protects us all. All worlds share one light, one fate.
I take it you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
In ancient times, people believed that light was a gift from an unseen land. By the name of Kingdom Hearts. But Kingdom Hearts was safeguarded by its counterpart, the Keyblade. Warriors vied for that precious light, thus beginning the Keyblade War. All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear. Sounds like your trip around the world opened your eyes, but you got a little bit more than you anticipated. You must have seen a lot of darkness. So you're saying the weak feel the need to justify their actions to maintain a sense of self. You can't let that slide. I suppose letting false light dictate the future might be a pretty lousy move. So, you can make a change. You have that power. What do you want for the world? You believe the world needs you. Sounds like you already know where you're headed. If you truly possess great power, the darkness can't control you.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key. Who are you really?
Some kind of fortune teller.
Well, I could lie, tell you that's what I am, when I'm actually a brilliant artist, even a scholar. I could tell you that I dream of world peace, when I'm actually planning for its destruction. The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key. May your heart be your guiding key.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Landy Lodge. We've got a very exciting Kingdom Hearts episode for you today with an incredible guest who I think you're all going to love. But before we get into all of that, just want to give a lot of love and a shout out to all of you tuning in live today. Let's shout out the early birds. We've got Dark Dragon, Fenreal, Doc Holiday, Liam Hughes, Beef and Butter, Josh Z, who's playing through Stellar Blade. Gotta love it. Hope you're enjoying it, man. Let's see who else we got. We got Zeb the King. And yes, those are our early birds. Good to see you guys. Okay, now, before we get into today's episode, we haven't really done much on the channel since our episode with Prodigy a couple weeks ago. The area I live in has gotten pummeled with a blizzard, which kind of slowed down a little bit of my plans for the lodge, but all melted down, all cleaned out now, and we are back. So, again, allow me to say that joining us today is a guest who's making their very first appearance on the lodge. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy today's guest. I'm sure you will. forgot to ask him how he prefers to be introduced, but given what I've seen in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dean. Dean, what's going on today, man? Are you with us? Here you are. It's clearly in the flesh, in the very color-coded flesh here on the screen. Hold on, let me make sure I have you unmuted. I have a bad habit of taking care of that. There we go. Okay. So, remember what I told you? Wouldn't be a Landy Lodge episode without a technical difficulty, and you were worried. So, go ahead and say hello to the folks again, if you don't mind.
Hey there, everyone. It's Dean, also known as Soralam1, here to join Landy on today's episode. I'm super excited.
Well, we gotta initiate you the right way. It's been a little while since we've had a guest we asked this for, but whenever somebody comes on for certain games we like to cover, like Kingdom Hearts and FF7, I get very curious. So you've been in the content creation scene for a very long time. We were discussing a little bit in the pre-roll, and I don't want this to be too much of an interview, but we have to get this out of the way. You've been at it since 2012, centered in the Kingdom Hearts series, playing as one of the biggest Sora players in Smash. I have to ask you, why Kingdom Hearts? There are so many series out there. What made you so drawn to Kingdom Hearts, want to make content for Kingdom Hearts? What makes it such a big part of your content and maybe even your life?
Oh man, what an intro question. Well, Kingdom Hearts was a game I was introduced to at the young age of 6 years old. My cousins actually introduced it to me at like a family party. They were just like, hey, check out this cool new game I found. And we played through the intro of Kingdom Hearts 1. We played through basically just part of the Destiny Islands tutorial, and that was enough to have me hooked. I don't think I even saw enough to realize it was a Disney game at the time. I was just a kid kind of entranced by the world of Sora, Riku, Kairi, and their world on Destiny Islands. So I ended up convincing my parents to buy me the game. And from there was just something different about Kingdom Hearts. It's not like I was like some super experienced gamer at that young age, but that game spoke to me in a way no other games have. I've played other games at that age that I still love, like Spyro the Dragon and a lot of other like PS1 games especially. But Kingdom Hearts just like stuck with me. Like I would find myself thinking about the game when I got off the game. I would, aspire to be like Sora as a little kid. Like he just inspired me. And I found the idea later as I found out about the traveling to different worlds super, super cool. There's something that you just can't explain with the feeling of playing a Kingdom Hearts game. It feels like playing no other game out there. And especially Kingdom Hearts 1, like it has that aspect nailed down to the T. So that kind of captured my heart. As I explored gaming growing up, I would find other game series I love almost as much, but somehow every time a new Kingdom Hearts game came out, it kind of reminded me like, yeah, this is still the king. So of course, when I decided to go to YouTube in 2012, I had to open up with Kingdom Hearts because it was undeniably my favorite game series.
I get a lot of answers, and I think one of the things that I see come up a lot is that there's really nothing quite like Kingdom Hearts, that whether it be in its gameplay, in its identity, in its aesthetic, it doesn't seem like something you can really get from somewhere else.
Absolutely not. I can't even put it into words myself, but when you're playing a Kingdom Hearts game, you're having an experience that's not really anywhere else in game.
So with that out of the way, we have to ask a question that I'm afraid deserves to come up. And it's one I don't see maybe talked about much because maybe it's a touchy subject with the drought and everything. Has the Kingdom Hearts series peaked? And I want to be clear that just because something has peaked does not mean that good times are not ahead, does not mean that there's not great games in our future. It's just sort of a question of wherever the series peak was, people have different opinions about where that might be. But regardless of whether you think it's 1, 2, 3, or Birth by Sleep, when it comes to maybe not just the quality of the games, but their cultural impact and, fan base sort of hype and celebration, where do you sort of gauge that situation? Where do you stand? Do you think the series has peaked? And what's your forecast for what things are going to sort of feel like down the road and what's up ahead?
Oh man, that is a very interesting question, and I'm sure every Kingdom Hearts fan you're asked, they're probably going to have a very different answer. So we're going to have a lot of interesting different opinions here. If you ask me, has the Kingdom Hearts series peaked? I would say, oh man, this is actually crazy for me to say because I've never said something so point blank, but I'd say there's a strong possibility that it's peaked for me. And this is something that I've actually been coming to terms with over the past few years. I have certain opinions on recent Kingdom Hearts that, not everyone would agree with, and that's totally okay. But I still love a lot of recent experiences I've had with Kingdom Hearts. Shout out to Remind, especially the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3. I adored that like to death. But in terms of like the best times of my life when Kingdom Hearts like really enchanted me from such a young age, I do feel like there's a very, very strong possibility for me that Kingdom Hearts has peaked, and I've been kind of accepting that. I've been accepting that, no matter where the Kingdom Hearts series goes, it could go to new highs. I'm not ruling that out at all. It could absolutely hit new highs with Kingdom Hearts 4 or beyond, and I'd love to see that. But in terms of my experiences so far, and because it's been like such a rich experience over the past 20 plus years, I think I'm starting to accept that maybe, the PS2 days were my personal peak. And no matter where they take Kingdom Hearts in the future, it kind of gives me contentment to know that I could always go back to the originals and have just the same peak experience. So I'm going to say a strong possibly, but anything could happen.
Yeah, I think that maybe something some Kingdom Hearts fans might want to get comfortable with is the idea that maybe we've peaked. And I'm not, and again, let me be clear when I say this, that doesn't mean that a fantastic gaming experience and story experience isn't waiting for us in the future. But I think when you add up maybe all the denominators, when you add up fan hype and sort of like fan base celebration and game quality and cultural impact, when you sort of total all of those things up, I think it's going to be very hard to defeat what say happened to or top what happened between KH1 and KH3. Now, this was discussed with Prodigy a couple weeks ago. There's some things they can do, like, a Darth Vader boss fight that could sort of pierce through the mainstream, albeit temporarily and for one installment. But at the end of the day, with the Dark Seeker saga ahead of us, where I stand, I think it's possible that the best story moments are ahead of us. When I look at the foundation of the Dark Seeker saga, everything that's being lined up, everything that's being built, from the Union Cross and the foretellers of it all, to the Quadratum and the Yozora of it all, to the Kingdom Hearts world and the Sora of it all. I sort of see all three threads, and we know how Kingdom Hearts is with their threes. I see all three threads combining in this future saga in a way that I think is going to be so explosive. So I want to be clear. It's not that sort of maybe peak gameplay or peak storytelling isn't ahead of us. It just seems as though this series is going to be more niche than it was. It always was niche, but there was something about Kingdom Hearts 3 that felt sort of mainstream, in that it became a meme within sort of gaming culture of, where's Kingdom Hearts 3? They'll wait for Kingdom Hearts 3. So when the game finally arrived, it was something that grabbed everybody's attention. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure the series will be able to do that at that scale ever again. I think it's possible there's better games ahead, better stories ahead, but in terms of the series as a whole, I think it's destined to be something just a little bit more niche between now and when it's over.
That's a very interesting point. And you know what? The Kingdom Hearts 4 situation is not something I would have predicted upon the release of Kingdom Hearts 3. I would have thought that Kingdom Hearts 3, even though its wait was quite long, it had quite high frequency of releases all throughout the time,
Mm-hmm.
especially from 1.5 onwards, right? So, even though Kingdom Hearts 3 sort of became that meme of like, will we ever get Kingdom Hearts 3? Will we ever get Half-Life 3? Is it ever
Mm-hmm.
going to come out? Kingdom Hearts had just such a healthy release schedule rolling towards it, which helped build up that hype for Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 4, for some reasons that we don't know yet, is very quiet and taking very many years with little updates. So in a way, that starvation aspect does have particularly hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans going really, really rabid for updates in a similar vein to Kingdom Hearts 3. But in terms of mainstream gamers, especially those that waited for Kingdom Hearts 3, and there were like some polarizing impressions of that game at first. I don't know if those same eyes are on Kingdom Hearts 4. Unquestionably, the hardcore fans, but I don't know about like mainstream games. So
Yeah.
in that sense, it may have peaked.
Yeah, you know what? I think that might be a good way to sort of like separate this idea is that you know what, for we all I like to put people in two groups on this channel, sickos and normies. For Kingdom Hearts normies, I think the peak is pretty much behind. But for Kingdom Hearts sickos, there's a lot of hope that peak is ahead of you. You spoke just earlier about Remind and how pleased you were with that. I personally think Remind is it's the best like 5 hour pocket of the whole series. And when I say 5 hour, I'm being reductive with the campaign because I thought personally the highlight was the limit cut bosses and everything with that. But when I look at Remind, I see sort of the peak pocket of the series. So if the Osaka team can build on that in a next generation sense with Kingdom Hearts 4, I think the possibilities are endless with what could be achieved. But sort of like you're saying, at the end of the day, we come from a time where the wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 meant getting a lot of subtitle games, meant getting Final Mix here, Final Mix there. There was getting Chain of Memories remade. There was a lot that was supplemented on that long wait that made the wait easier. Even Union Cross, its ability to keep the fan base talking and people theorizing was so important. Not even with Missing Link's cancellation, not even that's there anymore. So I personally think that, speaking of Kingdom Hearts' future, I think what's unprecedented is sort of the idea that in between these games, we're not going to see the sort of same development that we used to.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And speaking on that point of Remind being the best pocket of the series, particularly, I just love talking about Remind. But I completely agree with you. Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind I often cite it as one of my greatest experiences I've ever had in gaming.
Same.
That goes without being said.
Same.
Because, Kingdom Hearts is my favorite, right? But, like, wow. Osaka team, the way they developed the gameplay and the night and day difference it is from the base game absolutely
100%.
like gobsmacked me.
100%.
It's unbelievable. Like I find myself searching for the credits of Remind to find out like is it the same team that even made the DLC, because the feeling of combat is so different. And since there's no information on it, I have to assume it is the same team, and that makes me like super hopeful for Kingdom Hearts 4. But there is like a little caveat to that, because we have seen sort of a smaller version of this pattern in the past with Kingdom Hearts 2.8's 0.2 little tech demo. It did have like a super cool secret boss in Phantom Aqua that closely resembled some of the best boss battles in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. So that kind of gave a lot of hope for the base release of Kingdom Hearts 3 to maybe touch on that level of design again. And I didn't find base KH3 to hit that spot, and that's why I didn't have the highest expectations for Remind, and then they blew me out of the water. So there does seem to be sort of a pattern with the initial releases not hitting that mark, and then the DLC completely blowing us away. I'm hoping that doesn't become a long-term pattern, but I'm seeing some writing on the wall there.
Yeah, I think you might be right to observe that. And I think the danger that I think this conversation, sort of the perspective carries with it, is don't let needing something to be peak keep you from enjoying the experience. Because I actually think that very idea disrupted a lot of people's initial experience with Kingdom Hearts 3. Because look, you've been around gaming long enough. The truth is, like, it doesn't matter when a game is released. Talk to a Zelda fan. They'll sing Tears of the Kingdom's praises like it was the greatest thing that ever happened. But if you ask them, they'll be like, oh, A Link to the Past was better. And that just, it's sort of the idea that just because something is newer and more capable doesn't mean that it will be or that it even should be better. So I think, again, what might have been disruptive for a lot of people when playing Kingdom Hearts 3 is there was a lot of this desire for it to be better than KH2. Or perhaps you're a KH1 supremacist. There was this desire for it to be better than Kingdom Hearts 1. Whereas I think a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans might want to take a page out of a Zelda fan's book and understand that all of these games are designed to stand on their own and stand the test of time. And even if you get to the end of KH4 and you're like, you know what, I still think KH2 is the best, that doesn't mean that Square Enix didn't do its job, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to have a really worthwhile experience. So I don't know, what are sort of your ideas on that? Do you have a favorite among the Kingdom Hearts titles that is the standout for you? That sort of set the standard? What's sort of your take on all that?
Yeah, so I've been a little bit outspoken over the years on my favorite Kingdom Hearts, and it's kind of funny because it does land into sort of a typical answer. There is some more nuance with my answer if you really get into the weeds of it. But my favorite Kingdom Hearts game, talking about a game as a whole, is definitely Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix in terms of the game appealing to me and my tastes. I find that it struck an excellent balance of course, the tight gameplay, the supreme end game content that we have yet to see until that point in the Kingdom Hearts series. Just the fact that it went so above and beyond. Even upon initial release, it included a remake of Chain of Memories complimentary with the releases. Insane. Like, just even its point in history in the Kingdom Hearts series is just like glowing. So I do see that as my favorite game. It's interesting that you mentioned the point about every game needing to come out and stand on its own as a standalone experience, taking a page out of the Zelda gamer's experience. I do feel like there is something to be said about respect for the Kingdom Hearts legacy, which with so many games now, it's actually getting harder to pinpoint that down. But when it comes down to, like, the big number titles, Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3, I felt like Kingdom Hearts 2, although it changed a ton from Kingdom Hearts 1, it did have respect for Kingdom Hearts 1's legacy very deeply in terms of, like, the tight coupling of many worlds being revisited, Olympus tournaments making a return, but with a new twist on them, Sephiroth being a secret boss in 1 and 2. They feel like very tightly coupled games. Kingdom Hearts 2 very much feels like a direct sequel to Kingdom Hearts 1 in many ways. I feel like that is being lost as the series grows and gets bigger and bigger, especially with many non-numbered entries. And it's something that you can't really avoid too much because the series has expanded to experiment with so many different play styles, different formulas, and whatnot, what have you. But just the fact that Kingdom Hearts 2 was so respectful in terms of respecting Kingdom Hearts 1's legacy, I feel like makes me like it more too. So that's definitely my favorite. And talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, that one is hard for me to rate because, again, I have my experience with Remind, which is one of my greatest gaming experiences of all time, and then I have my experience with the base game, where I'm trying to take a page out of your quote there and look at it as its own new experience, but it didn't quite scratch that itch for me on launch. And then Kingdom Hearts 1 is kind of my honorary favorite. It's my favorite game if we base it on vibes only, Kingdom Hearts 1 wins, hands down.
Totally fair.
Vibes only.
Totally fair.
But I guess my complete answer would be Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and those are just the little cracks of nuance.
I respect that. People have two opinions about me. I'm either a KH3 supremacist or a KH3 apologist. I would agree with you that at launch, the base game, I always give things time before ranking them because there's always recency bias. But when the game initially launched, I remember finishing it and being like, I don't think I liked that better than KH2. I think I still prefer KH2. But in getting to play it on critical mode, the combat updates with Remind and Limit Cut, I've now come away feeling like, as a whole, KH3 is my favorite. But I have such a deep love and affection, again, not just for every numbered title in the series, but for most of the games, including Chain of Memories, which I wouldn't. I'd be one of probably the few people that if there was Chain of Memories 2, and maybe not just maybe in title, but in spirit, like you brought the card combat system back, I'd actually be happy. Now, I wouldn't want KH4 to have that, but if you brought back some sort of subtitle experience that had that card combat again, I actually would love that. I thought it was actually really enjoyable. And I think, again, so many Kingdom Hearts games with all the unique ways they experiment have something that they uniquely offer. I want to give a quick shout out to Lands, who's celebrating their 41 months of a member on the channel. Says, I feel like high upside peaks like Darth Vader or Data foretellers can only thrive if the gameplay is tight and good on launch. Yeah, Lands, and I think that's going to be the key to KH4's success, is you got to make it feel like Remind on launch. If that game feels like Remind on launch, I think its ceiling is sky high, so to speak.
I agree with that, and you know what? I'm bracing for it to not match Remind on launch, not out of pessimism, but just out of past experiences. Not that it would be a problem. The fact that I'm bracing for it means I'm preparing to see the game develop as it launches. But if they manage to hit that at launch, my mind will be blown already, and I'm just going to be looking up to find what peak we hit.
Well, it's one of the things that retroactively would make this wait worth it. After KH3's initial launch, which proved to be a little bit divisive, a long wait that comes with a game that feels a little bit more complete and together at launch, as opposed to people like myself having to say, oh yeah, it's my favorite game in the series, but only after a year and a half of patching it. It would. I think that it would only benefit them for that to really no longer be a conversation, for it to be at launch, feel like the game it was always meant to be. By the way, shout out to Prodigy in the chat who just joined us. Good to see you, my man. But yeah, I have a lot of faith in them, though. I know this long wait can be a little bit frustrating, but a lot of Square's releases, what I'm noticing, seem to be correcting the mistakes KH3 made. And again, I say this as a KH3 supremacist before anyone jumps down my throat, but when I look at, and I know for some people this could be a touchy subject, when I look at the FF7 trilogy, both games is combat. Say what you will, maybe their action combat isn't for you. Sure. But their game's combat is so polished on launch. And when I look at, say, another game that involved Nomura, Neo: The World Ends With You. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of playing that, but that's another game that at launch, its combat is beautifully patched and ready to go. When I look at some of the recent games that involve action combat that Nomura has been a part of in particular, Nomura and Nojima, I don't see those same issues with KH3. I don't see them spoiling everything in the trailers again. I don't see a combat system that needs 18 months of patching to reach its peak. I'm seeing games that seem to be released more complete, right? Like FF7 Rebirth isn't getting a DLC. They're just moving on to the next game. There's so much content and so much gameplay available within the base game that they were able to just move on to the next game. As opposed to the KH3 devs in Osaka, which had to spend 18 months post-release making DLC, creating a critical mode, patching the combat. When I look at forecasting how Square has done lately with some of those things, it seems like a lot of the mistakes they've made during KH3 don't seem to be being made on a company-wide scale anymore.
Okay, that is a very interesting way to look at things. I totally see your point. Um, I want to say, and I mean, who's to say what is really going on behind the scenes in terms of Square and their delivery since Kingdom Hearts 3?
Mhm.
But I want to say my theory on Final Fantasy VII's trilogy in particular, exhibiting these changes is the switch from Nomura being director to creative director, and then Hamaguchi kind of taking the ropes as the hands-on director. I feel like Hamaguchi in the Final Fantasy VII space is doing some real good on the, kind of the physical game ready to ship aspect of Final Fantasy VII. And I feel like he deserves a lot of credit for Seven's big changes there. I can't speak on Neo: The World Ends With You. I don't know about it. Um, and I can't necessarily speak on the trailers being spoiled since I haven't seen any trailers lately, and Kingdom Hearts doesn't release any trailers, so I haven't seen anything. So I'm still fully expecting them to spoil Kingdom Hearts 4 in all the trailers. It's just par for the course. I'll be
Fair
very
enough.
shocked if they don't.
No, I will echo your statement. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Hamaguchi. All things considered, I really love the guy. I think he's great, but I think his ability to communicate with the fan base, I'd like to sit here and say the Kingdom Hearts team could learn a thing or two, but the truth is, I'm willing to bet it's really not their call. At the end of the day, anything PR related, I think, has to go through Disney. So Nomura can't speak as freely about Kingdom Hearts as Hamaguchi can FF7. That said, it's still worth admiring that man's ability to have a back and forth with his audience, and with that team's audience. What I will say, the only thing I'd say, sort of against your point, polished as Rebirth was, Nomura was the director of Remake, and I personally felt Remake was a way more polished game than Rebirth. That said, Rebirth is a much bigger game.
Yeah.
Rebirth is a much bigger game, though, so that's to be expected to a degree. So that's why I almost don't even want to put too much weight on that point, just because Rebirth is it's 3 times the size Remake was. So of course Remake looks a little bit more polished. But I don't know. How do you feel about a lot of the fans who are who we might say are disgruntled by the favor FF7 seems to be getting?
Yeah, very. That is something I see a lot going around. 'Cause
Yeah.
what else is there to really talk about in terms of Square Enix, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody just, needs to take a chill pill. FF7 Part 3 probably going to come out before Kingdom Hearts 4, and FF7, I understand FF7 Part 1 came out after Kingdom Hearts 3, but these are 2 different teams working on 2 different trajectories. I saw Nomura shifting from director to creative director on 7 as a big positive for the Kingdom Hearts series. I felt like it would let him focus his efforts elsewhere while still being able to oversee FF7 and maintain that vision. I see a lot of green flags for Kingdom Hearts behind the scenes. The only red flag is the elephant in the room, the silence, right? But if Square Enix's overall business plans are really what they say they are with the restructuring, right? It's a good thing that they're being quiet, because when they show Kingdom Hearts 4, it's assumed that it will be coming soon, which is, I know Kingdom Hearts fans aren't used to that kind of thing, but it would be preferable in terms of getting excited, because we'd be able to get excited for a finish line we can actually see. So I'm not worried about Kingdom Hearts 4, like in terms of its standing, until they let me know something's wrong. I'm not going to think something's wrong. I'm just going to think they're hard at work and their marketing strategies have changed, probably for the better.
Yeah, I think what they're learning is ultimately having shorter marketing cycles, because things move so quickly. It's so easy, it's easier than ever to waver yourself into the spotlight, but the truth is your time in the spotlight fades quicker than ever too. So it's never been easier to kind of pierce the veil and, go viral and get onto the mainstream spotlight. But again, that spotlight fades so much quicker than it used to. Because again, we grew up in a 24-hour news cycle. We're now like in a 12-hour news cycle. If we're being honest, things change that quickly. But I would think that, you look at a game like FF7 Part 3. For those who have been keeping up, the game appears to be, all things considered, about a year away. They're talking in interviews like the game is already playable from beginning to end. We're just in the polishing phase. What I actually think they're doing is, just because a game is getting ready doesn't mean they speed up development to release it as soon as possible. I think they're being more strategic about when they release things and why. So for like FF7, of course they're going to wait till next year. That's the 30th anniversary. And I think what they want to do is, I saw in a lot of their reports that the idea is they want to release one big AAA game a year is sort of their idea. And if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, you have to understand that means that you're not going to get KH4 within 6 months of FF7. So I almost want to be a voice in some fans' ear that says, you should be rooting for FF7 to come out as soon as possible. You should be cheering every time a release date gets announced, the title gets announced, because the sooner that thing is on the shelf, the sooner you're going to hear about Kingdom Hearts 4 again. Because I don't think they're going to want to clog those airwaves. I think there is an overlap between Kingdom Hearts fans and FF7 fans that's significant enough that I hate to say it, I'm just trying to look at it from Square's perspective. They're going to want you to play FF7 to help the wait for KH4. They are not going to drop FF7 Part 3 with KH4 on the horizon, because then someone who's more casual might be more likely to wait before buying it. So I think where we're at right now, you're not going to get a game, like, even though they announced KH4 early, I don't think you're going to get 2 years of trailers getting released. I think it's going to be 6 to 9 months of trailers being released, and then it's here. And I don't see them showing us KH4 again without a release window. I think you could show the coolest, most hyped trailer you can imagine, but if it ends with, like, currently in development, people are going to, oh, what does that mean? I almost feel like they're forced that when they show themselves again, they have to have a release window.
I completely agree, and I agree with that point. Kingdom Hearts fans should be happy to be hearing about FF7 moving. It means, Square's making moves, and not to expect Kingdom Hearts 4 to be on the horizon along with FF7 Part 3. They definitely are going to split it up to meet their own strategic release cycles. I completely agree with that. And in a way, I kind of feel for Kingdom Hearts 4, because Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced at a very, very weird time, kind of in between Square's big restructure, as well as being announced at the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary. That event alone, being post Kingdom Hearts 3, post Melody of Memory, it kind of, forced their hand. If they're going to, throw this big event for the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary, would people be happy to hear that, the series is moving and we're only going to announce the mobile title Missing Link and that's it, because we want to hold off until we have more information on Kingdom Hearts 4. I feel like they felt very pressured to get some, big Kingdom Hearts news to match the event, and that news ended up being a Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer on an engine that they're going to scrap anyway, just to have something to show out of excitement. And also Nomura's preference of hating his projects being leaked. He just wanted to get it out there. So Kingdom Hearts 4 being put in that position really led us to where we are today. And there needs to be some understanding of that.
Yeah, and that's why, and I almost want to celebrate. There's pros and cons to everything, right? And I feel like now that we're at this point with the advent of AI and how easy it is to fake a screenshot, fake a leak, that now all leaks almost can't be trusted anymore, because it's so easy to create something that's believable. And like you're saying, the only reason we even saw KH4 when we did was, one, Nomura wanting to get ahead of leaks, and two, like you're saying, their hands were kind of forced that you needed to have something to show off for the 20th anniversary. At the same time, given how they conceptualized mobile games, I think they would have thought Missing Link would be enough. But I think that with Yeah, I really do. And maybe we can get into that at some point. But, I think that ultimately speaking, even though we got to see KH4 really early, minus having to get in front of any leaks they know about, we're not really going to see games until they're close. It's why we haven't seen anything about Dragon Quest 12. I don't know if we have any Dragon Quest fans in the chat, but that's a game where you got a logo years and years ago, and you haven't seen anything since. Not so much as a screenshot, not so much as concept art. Like, you think KH fans have it bad, right? You think we have it bad. They've gotten a logo. Exactly. They've gotten nothing. But the truth is, they're not going to get anything until it's 9 months away. I mean, you saw this with Octopath Zero. Like, I mean, I know that it's sort of a recompleted, refurbished version of a mobile game, but nobody even knew that was going to happen until within the calendar year it happened. So I think this is Square's new approach to things. I mean, even with the Dragon Quest remakes, like, you didn't see anything about it until you were already in that calendar year. So I just think that's their new MO.
I completely agree. And the Dragon Quest thing is so funny because the Kingdom Hearts fans are a lot more vocal about their lack of information being released to them, or at least in my algorithms, in my scope, obviously. The Kingdom Hearts fans are a lot more vocal. But I think that is something about Kingdom Hearts fans in general. They're no matter their size, they're a super, super vocal fan base. That's kind of partially the reason Sora got into Smash. So, but yeah, the Dragon Quest situation, they're in arguably the same, if not a worse situation than us, and they're just gonna have to wait until their games are ready. I'm more worried about Dragon Quest 12 than I am the standing of Kingdom Hearts 4, and I think that's pretty justifiable in that.
Well, especially when you consider, and it breaks my heart to even say this, that like it's the first Dragon Quest post Akira Toriyama. And I know he's not as hands-on with that series as he is other things that he did, or even as much as he used to be, but it's going to be weird seeing his art style without him here. Again, I don't know how much of a like Dragon Ball or Dragon Quest fan you are, but
Dragon Ball, absolutely. Well, Dragon Quest, I find it interesting.
We love Toriyama here. I want to touch on something you said a little bit earlier before I do want to pick your brain about Missing Link and everything that happened with that. But you said you noticed both sort of like you've seen some green flags you think are happening behind the scenes, some red flags. What would you say are some green flags? Let's be a little positive here. What would you say are some green flags you've seen from Square Enix to give, to make fans feel good about maybe what's on the horizon? By the way, at the risk of anyone's getting expectations up, neither you nor I are the authority on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So green flags, I am speaking in terms of, I follow Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 4 very closely. So the green flags I pick out are always going to be kind of to do with Kingdom Hearts 4. The first one I already mentioned, Nomura stepping off of the director position. I don't know whether or not that was his choice, but he was moved from director to creative director for the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. That, at least to our knowledge, puts him as the sole kind of, like, his sole director position is on Kingdom Hearts 4, and then he's more like overseeing the Final Fantasy VII series. He's still very much involved, but now Hamaguchi maybe can be more hands-on, and then he can be a little bit more hands-on with Kingdom Hearts 4 along with Tai Yasue. I see that as a huge green flag for Kingdom Hearts. The next green flag I see is a little bit more on like the presumptuous side for me, but I feel that, we all know the history, Final Fantasy versus 13. We're seeing Final Fantasy versus 13 elements leak into Kingdom Hearts. That's Nomura's canceled baby, his dream project he always wanted to make. Now that it's kind of resurrecting itself in some form that we don't completely understand yet within Kingdom Hearts, that aspect really has me feel like Nomura is gonna, really tighten the ropes on Kingdom Hearts and be like, hey, you guys stopped my passion project once. I'm not gonna let you do it again. I'm making this happen with Kingdom Hearts 4 and whatever I'm building here. So I see that as a massive green flag. The initial interviews for Kingdom Hearts 4, I feel like at the 20th anniversary, upon the announcement, there was a lot of kind of comments made based on Kingdom Hearts fan feedback for Kingdom Hearts 4. You know, they mentioned the new scrap build system, and they mentioned whether how you feel about them, you know, triangle to win or whatever, the return of reaction commands coming to Kingdom Hearts 4. I feel like they're keeping a close ear on what the fan base was thinking, you know, during Cage 3, post Cage 3. It's very much even Remind reflects this very heavily, but it's very much a message of we're listening. And I see that as a massive green flag. I see this one is a lot harder to gauge as an outsider, but I guess I'm gonna take a page out of Prodigy's book with this one. The cancellation of Missing Link. I'm gonna say it's a net positive more so than a green flag for Kingdom Hearts 4, because you know this forces them to put the important story elements in Kingdom Hearts 4 itself. And even if that delays the game, I feel that is a good thing for Kingdom Hearts 4 regardless, and just the consumers of Kingdom Hearts. All of those things make me feel very hopeful for Kingdom Hearts 4, and I don't feel like anything is going wrong. If there is something going wrong, I'll wait until they tell us. I'm not gonna assume destruction without a sign of it, you know?
Yeah, I actually feel very confident that things are going well. I'm a very no news is good news kind of guy. Especially when after we get news that Missing Link is canceled. That's what news can look like. So no news is good news as far as I'm concerned. I tend to be of that same school of thought, by the way. And him and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I really was heartbroken that Missing Link was canceled, but I do think ultimately it is going to be a net positive that that era of Kingdom Hearts is behind us. Not that it didn't have its enjoyable moments, not that it didn't bring us great things, just I definitely think it's going to be, for the reasons you laid out, a net benefit in the long run that that era of Kingdom Hearts is behind us. I wanted to give a little note and shout out to Noct Flugel here, who says, as per Nomura himself, his role with the FF7 Remake series hasn't changed from Remake to Rebirth. They just changed the titles to reflect their actual roles in the project. I think that makes that makes sense, because you know what? I do recall that even during Remake, he mentioned that he was more not mentoring Toriyama, but that Toriyama was sort of following his lead, so that maybe he's sort of the creative lead and Toriyama sort of the directorial lead, and the two of them kind of hybrid that together. So thank you for letting us know that, Dr. Flugel.
Interesting.
But yeah, you know what? Let's maybe talk maybe a little bit more about it. As far as Missing Link goes, I think, you know, I think personally, I've said this a lot. I'm curious your thoughts about it. I think there is a major void within the Kingdom Hearts series, that there's not a multiplayer game. You know, all this, you know, whole series about making connections and friendships and all that, but there's no way for the fan base to actually do that and do that. So I think Missing Link was going to provide something to fulfill that's no longer there. Not to say that's the only way to fulfill it. This is something that could have easily been fulfilled by Melody and Memory being more online accessible and stuff like that. But it's something that could be achieved by other means. So I don't know. You seem to be of this school of thought that it's a net positive that Missing Link is gone, but what do you think this means for non-numbered titles? Do you think that's gone too? Do you think the mobile titles were the only way these were allowed to exist anymore? Or do you think there is a hopeful return to form that we can get smaller scale titles in between the numbered titles again?
Yeah, that's very interesting in today's landscape. So as we all know, Kingdom Hearts games more so post Kingdom Hearts 2, but even past Kingdom Hearts 1, had many, you know, small handheld titles, smaller in scope, more, you know, I'm not going to call them side chapters, but smaller chapters in the story, filling in, you know, background knowledge and stuff, lore, you know, maybe past timelines, all that stuff would, you know, frequently appear in between numbered releases, especially between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3, and now with Kingdom Hearts 4, we were sort of getting that with Kingdom Hearts Missing Link being another foray into the mobile game experience. It was canceled. I see it as a net positive. In terms of more of these type of games, their existence, their role in today's Kingdom Hearts landscape, I want to say, I do firmly believe that Kingdom Hearts 4 being the next game after Kingdom Hearts 3 in particular is the right move. I mean, you can throw the technicality at me. Melody of Memory exists, has a few cutscenes filling in
The
some
Kyrie,
stuff, but mostly,
I call it the Kyrie anime episode.
yeah, pretty much the Kyrie anime episode. That happened. Sure, I'm not gonna count it as like a full on entry into the Kingdom Hearts
No.
series, but yeah, I firmly believe Kingdom Hearts 3 tying up and wrapping up the Dark Seeker saga, going into the Lost Master arc, it's the right move to go straight from 3 to 4, to let everyone know that like this is a new start. We mean business. We want you to get in on this new story for Kingdom Hearts. I feel like that is the right move there. Now, Melody of Memory existing does give me hope that, especially if that team is still around, as it was implied to be upon release of that game, it was implied to be an actual Kingdom Hearts team. If that team is still around, it does give me hope that they can pull out the smaller scale titles, maybe even a more traditional smaller scale Kingdom Hearts game. I would totally welcome seeing it, especially after Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm not going to be picky if it happens before Kingdom Hearts 4 somehow. That's cool with me. But my preference is definitely let's go 3 to 4, and then I welcome those smaller games. If they do decide that like these smaller games can only exist in the form of a mobile game, which I can totally see being the perspective from a business standpoint, I would personally be unhappy with that. I would rather have nothing than that. And I understand that's a pretty extreme stance and it does put us in this drought situation, but I would rather have nothing than a very slow, episodic drawl game, kind of holding us hostage, giving us little bits of the story that presumably are important to the next numbered title. I just feel like that's not the way to go. On your point in like Kingdom Hearts missing a multiplayer game, I would absolutely welcome a multiplayer game. I would be even more welcoming of it if it's live service and maybe like sort of canon, like world building type of canon, but not like truly like this is major story needed for Kingdom Hearts 4 or 5. I would hope to veer away from that, just in terms of accessibility and palatability of the series. I feel like it would be better to steer in a more straightforward direction, especially Nomura's not going to be here forever. He probably wants to end Kingdom Hearts on his terms. I feel like going for a really clear, great ending to the series would be beneficial.
Yeah, I've always been in that camp that I think Kingdom Hearts, especially what we'll call Nomura's era, because Disney's going to keep it going after he's gone. Not saying I like that, but I'm not going to doubt that they're going to try. I think it having a definitive ending that can never be retconned or touched is incredibly important to Kingdom Hearts' legacy. So I would agree with you that that's where his head is at, that he knows he can't do this forever, and that he wants to have a swan song. He wants it to end definitively and not have him depart in the middle of unfinished business, because given his history with Versus 13, I'm sure he's had enough unfinished business for one career. I wanted to build on something you said a little bit earlier when speaking about some of the green flags from a development standpoint. This is one of the things that I don't think is talked about nearly enough among Kingdom Hearts fans is the Final Fantasy 16 devs mentioned that all of their boss battles, they got help from the Kingdom Hearts team. That all of the FF16 boss battles were done with the help of the current Kingdom Hearts 4 team. And I want to say this. Now, I'm not sure I would put FF16. In fact, I don't think I would put it in my top 5 Final Fantasies. Love the game. Absolutely love the game. Don't think I'd put it in my top 5. But I will tell you this. It has the best goddamn boss battles of any Final Fantasy ever created. I will die on that freaking hill. So, given the boss battle scope, and if there's anyone who's played FF16 in my chat, I guarantee you, I'm going to look like such an ass if I get this wrong, but I guarantee you they're going to know what I'm saying. They're going to know what I'm talking about. The boss battles in FF16 were one of the few things that have happened in the PS5 era that made me feel like we're in the next gen. Like the FF16 boss battles are one of the few things where I'm like, yeah, a PS4 probably couldn't handle that. So in terms of what to get excited about, whatever people's opinions are on that game, most people come away pretty much unanimously agreeing that the boss battles were the highlight. And knowing that the boss battles worked with the Kingdom Hearts team, I think is a reason to get excited. And when you consider what boss battles in that game were, you more often than not were fighting some titanious figure, one of many summons you've gotten used to in the Final Fantasy series. When you consider the gigas that we see in Quadratum, that we saw in Toy Box, I think we've gotten a little taste of what it's going to be like to fight a Giga in Quadratum if you look at any of the boss battles in FF16. So again, maybe that game's not for you, but if anybody out there wants a little sneak peek of what's probably coming in Kingdom Hearts 4, go watch some FF16 boss battles on YouTube. And I guarantee you the spectacle of them, that alone will get you excited.
Very interesting. You know what? I did know and I did hear that the Kingdom Hearts team was helping on Final Fantasy 16 combat. I did not know specifically boss battles. I'll definitely have to look into that.
Yeah, it's again, it's the thing that's gotten me excited the most, because again, I wouldn't put FF16's combat in my top 5 for the series. I wouldn't put it as a game in my top 5 of the series. For story, I'd 100% put it top 5. But in terms of like that stuff, not so much. But the boss battles, huge highlight. So I think that's another green flag, you might say. But where do you stand on, speaking of whether or not we've peaked, perhaps history will tell that the PS2 era truly was the peak. Where do you stand, not on the rumor, right, but the idea of a KH1 remake? Do you think it's a game that could be remade? Because I'm of the school of thought, I think it's a difficult venture, because you were sort of alluding to this sort of opinion earlier that, you know, Kingdom Hearts 1 has a vibe, an atmosphere, and an energy that no other Kingdom Hearts game has been able to replicate. And I'm not sure any game can ever do it again. I don't think Kingdom Hearts 1 can be remade. I think you can do your best, but I think ultimately people are always going to prefer the PS2 version, final mix or not. I really think that maybe the best approach with KH1 is just quality of life updates. I don't think it's a game that can really be remade. How do you really feel about that?
Yeah, so I completely agree with you on that point. A very common quote that I always drop regarding Kingdom Hearts 1 whenever I speak about it is, Kingdom Hearts 1 it's just this game that has a drop of magic in it. It has genuinely a drop of magic in it that I don't even think the devs knew what they did when they made the game. Like, nobody knew. It's kind of just lightning in a bottle that they struck at the right time. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. It's not just a game, it's kind of an experience. And I understand that the game has aged in a way to where, you know, modern gamers might have difficulties with small parts of the game. I don't think it's that dramatic as some people tend to put online, but, you know, yeah, it's aged a little bit, but that doesn't deter the experience from being magical in my eyes. I've seen brand new people play Kingdom Hearts 1 and experience the exact same thing. I feel like Kingdom Hearts 1 firmly stands on its own as a game. It's like a mark in history, that game.
Yep.
That game is, I believe, the first game with air combos. Like, it's done a lot, even for the action RPG genre. That game, it just, if you can try to remake it, like you said, absolutely, you can try. I would veto that decision, but nobody's gonna listen to me. Square is gonna remake it one day, whether Nomura's there or not. I think they probably are gonna remake it. I'm bracing myself for that time. I'll probably buy it and play it even. I'm not gonna like boycott it or anything, but I don't agree with the idea of a Kingdom Hearts 1 remake. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I just don't think it needs it. I think, again, quality of life updates and, you know, maybe a fresh coat of paint here and there, maybe to keep the game alive and port it to modern consoles and, you know, things like that. I think something like that could be useful, but I think we're both in the same boat here that remaking a game that had a special magic that you've not since been able to recapture, you're just gonna fall short, and I'm not sure it's worth it. Shout out to Lance dropping a $5 super chat on us, who says, the spectacle is what I'd want Osaka to take away from 16. I'd rather they improve from Limit Cut in terms of movesets and scripts. I'm a nerd. Sorry. Do not apologize for that, which is a virtue at the Landy Lodge. Now, here's what I'll say to you, Lance. Remember that there are two kinds of boss battles in Kingdom Hearts. You have your 1v1s with a humanoid. Those are your organization boss battles, fighting Cloud and Olympus, even fighting, maybe even fighting Hades, right? But you always have titanic bosses in Kingdom Hearts as well. You think of the 3 Titans from Olympus, you get up on the Hydra's back. So there are two kinds of boss battles in Kingdom Hearts. Again, you have that 1v1 duel with another human, or you're fighting this giant titanious beast. Now, I, for one, always felt the 1v1s with a human far outclass fighting any sort of titanious beast in Kingdom Hearts. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. But getting back to it, I think if anything, what Kingdom Hearts needs to improve on is fighting these big Titan-like bosses. I feel actually that's where the boss design is at its weakest, is when we're fighting these big beasts. So that's where I get excited, is that from an FF16 standpoint, if the boss battles of the big figures feel like that, that's exciting to me. But I would agree with you that I think the highlight of Kingdom Hearts combat is sort of in the 1v1 duels. Do you have any sort of comment on that, Dean?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Kingdom Hearts bosses in particular peak at the 1v1 duels. Absolutely. It has its own little systems that have evolved over time, and it's kind of an experience in some factors, an experience that's unique to Kingdom Hearts that a lot of people don't even expect getting into Kingdom Hearts. They don't expect things like these data bosses and Lingering Will to take that design and take it to such an extreme level with such a level of mastery being demanded from the player. So absolutely, that's where Kingdom Hearts shines. And regarding Land's comment as well, I would say, Lands, as usual, being based with his comment, I do agree with him. But I also agree with you in the aspect that Kingdom Hearts needs to improve on giant boss battles. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I also feel like in terms of planning, this is only with the most recent number title, Kingdom Hearts 3, I was feeling some fatigue in the giant bosses being something in every single Disney world. Like, it was always the giant boss. I want to fight Disney villains too, I don't want to just fight a giant heartless spawned from the Disney villain. I don't want that to be the precedent for Kingdom Hearts.
That's a great point.
They were on next gen HD technology for the first time. They probably wanted to flex a lot of things. But let's strike a better balance for that for Kingdom Hearts 4. I feel like that would be really beneficial.
Yeah, because again, even from the Kingdom Hearts 1 days, the best battles were like the fight against Riku, and it's always sort of been the duels are where the gameplay shines. That's such a great point. Is I really would like to see them return to that, where the bosses you're fighting at the end of a Disney World aren't always going to be a titanious beast that you can fight Jafar 1v1 or Hades 1v1, or maybe this is where Darth Vader is going to come into play. Shout out to Josh Z with 29 months a member, says if they can do something similar to Metroid Prime Remaster that feels like a remake without actually being one, that would be perfect for a KH1 re-release. Yeah, Josh, I think you're hitting it on the money, where it's just port the game to modern consoles with quality of life updates that improve the gameplay. So for instance, I think it was Beef and Butter. Yeah, he says it right here. It low-key needs a remake because Kingdom Hearts 1's camera is bad with auto lock-on. Okay, then maybe the next time we port this thing, maybe the next time we have a final mix for KH1, we improve that lock-on. We improve some of that stuff. I just think something like that is going to reap way more benefits than trying to capture that which has been lost. And I don't mean lost in a bad sense, but that, time doesn't move backwards, and each moment in time offers something precious. And as you were saying earlier, Dean, they really captured everything in that moment.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot to ask you about this regarding the Kingdom Hearts 1 remake again. How do you feel about the inevitability that if they chose to do a Kingdom Hearts 1 remake, the recast of the voice actors for all of the current Kingdom Hearts characters, how would you feel about that happening?
Well, let me tell you
I'm
something.
99% sure that's what they would do.
I'm so sorry. Mandy Moore's about to catch some strays. I think she fumbled one of the best roles you could be given in video games. So there are some recasts that I'd actually be happy about. So I don't need to listen to KH1, KH2 Aerith anymore. And I love Aerith. She's like one of my favorite video game characters ever. But ever since I was a kid, I never liked her performance in the early games. So, recasting, maybe I'm, at the risk of sounding like an asshole, sometimes recasting's good. I prefer the modern day FF7 cast over the previous day FF7 cast. I loved the original cast. I have some preferences for some characters, some for others, but overall speaking, I actually felt the FF7 recasts were to FF7's benefit. So when it comes to voice acting and voice actors, I don't really care. I just want there to be a good job done. I don't care who does it. So, because like you're saying, I don't think Haley Joel Osment's going to be able to do his KH1 Sora voice. But I'm attached to Sora, not Haley Joel Osment. So if they get someone who can sound like it and put on a good performance, that's all I really care about. Was there anything else you asked other than voice acting? I'm drawing a blank.
No, not in particular. But I mean, in terms of a Kingdom Hearts remake, I think bringing back Haley Joel Osment is like something you just can't do. He sounds completely different.
He's a grown man. He's a grown man. Yeah.
It's a Sora voice that he no longer has access to. So we would expect maybe even a new child actor for a new Sora. But that kind of crosses over into the magic. I don't think they can recapture the magic, and it's not all in the voice acting; it's in the entire game. But I feel like the voices of Kingdom Hearts 1 is part of the magic.
Yeah.
So that's just another point for like why I wouldn't want to see Kingdom Hearts 1 remade.
Well, you can't even do Deep Jungle anymore if you were going to remake it, right? That was one of the big talking points when the rumors were spreading around is what the hell do you do with Deep Jungle? And I know some people want to write it out and put in Jungle Book or something, but it's just there's more to a game's experience than just what's literal, than just like the literal story. Like, I'm sorry, not Clayton. Not Clayton. Like, I'm sorry. Like, things like that are such a, I know it seems like such a little thing, you know what I mean? But it's something that's just part of the game's charm, and that, Deep Jungle is one of those areas that not only were willing to get really dark in the KH1 days, watching Clayton die to a degree. Don't forget the foreshadowing of Sora seeing Hollow Bastion. And like, I know some people easily want to be like, well, can't you retool that into something else? And it's like, yeah, maybe, but like, that was such a big moment. And call me crazy. Maybe it's because I'm like a lore and a story sicko, but like, Sora recognizing that place, but you, the player, don't really recognize it. And then time passes, you grow to know that place is Hollow Bastion, and you grow to find out that it's not Sora that recognized that place. It was Kairi that recognized that place, and that Kairi was in his heart. Like, there's just, and it's some of the beauty of Nomura's writing, that there could be so many layers in a child looking at a slideshow image in a tent of a Disney movie. And there's something about that absurdity and that layer, that sort of layering on top of each other, that comes with KH1 in another line that just makes this remake, I won't say impossible, but certainly difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just kind of like the chef's kiss of Kingdom Hearts 1 being made, right? Like the way it was. And everything just feels so perfectly placed. Quality of life, sure, can always improve, but like, that game is just, it's magnificent. I would use the word magnificent. I cannot say enough good things about the original Kingdom Hearts. And I did want to touch on one of your earlier points about the voice actors, particularly for the Final Fantasy cast. I agree with you, actually. The Final Fantasy VII Remake cast is like the best Final Fantasy cast there ever has been. Except I wouldn't agree with Sephiroth. That's the only one.
I was gonna say. Though I think his name's, I forget his last name. I know his first name's Tyler. I'm really bad with voice actors. But he's getting better as the trilogy goes on. But I'm with you where I prefer the old Advent Children voice actor. But
Yeah.
it's again there. I wouldn't really mind. I think recasting actually. There's always the chance the voices are better, and especially when you consider that, PS2 voice acting was very limited compared to today. So I actually would be willing to bet that if you did recast everyone, I'd be willing to actually bet that the voice acting might be one of the few things that would be better in a KH1 remake. Maybe that's my hot take.
I can consider that if the Kingdom Hearts 1 remake was made with as much care and as much vigor as Final Fantasy 7 remake.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's not likely to be the case with the Kingdom Hearts 1 remake, especially if Nomura's not there, which I'm assuming he wouldn't be there. I don't think it's on his radar, remake Kingdom Hearts 1.
All right, so this is something that comes up on this podcast a lot, and I'm curious where you stand on it. What, we've referenced it several times in this conversation about, Nomura's not going to be there forever. Like, what do you want to happen to Kingdom Hearts without Nomura? Like, what is, give me your ideal, not what you think what will happen, but like, what is your ideal scenario?
Yeah, okay. Because there's always what do you think is going to happen and what do you want to happen. So
Correct.
My ideal with kind of, Nomura ending his career and Kingdom Hearts ending, I feel like I would even call out maybe like Kingdom Hearts 5 maybe can be the end to the current arc. It could be a shorter arc and Kingdom Hearts just gets a very definitive ending, very particularly ending Sora's story. Since Nomura has always highlighted Sora is my main character of Kingdom Hearts, he will be the main until the end. I want to see Sora's story come to a satisfying conclusion, something that we can all walk away from and be like, that's Kingdom Hearts. That's the back cover of everything. And I know that'll be a challenge for Nomura because he in particular does not like making definitive endings. He loves to keep it open-ended. He loves to keep you thinking. That's kind of a trademark of his Kingdom Hearts endings and his endings in general, you could say. But I would love to see it close definitively. I would love to see Disney say, you know what? It is your series. We're going to respect that, and we're not going to make any new games. Maybe we'll make some new merch. Maybe we'll make small things here and there. But as in terms of real entries to the Kingdom Hearts series, I'd like to see it end because in my experience, media series, I understand they can become big franchises. They can become long-running things. But, once they go over like the original creator's vision and flanderization happens and dilution of the brand and all that, I'd rather just not see that happen to Kingdom Hearts. I'm happy to see Kingdom Hearts end on a high note, and all good things must come to an end, and there's always something new around the corner. So
I just want to say I have the same exact opinion as you. That's literally exactly my opinion. I think maybe I'm an optimist, but I think we actually get something close to that. I don't see Disney putting the series on the shelf. I actually, if I'm being honest, I even see Disney pulling it away from Square Enix, just because I don't think Square Enix is going to last forever. I would like them to, but I really think personally, between you and I, when the names like Nomura, Kitase, Nojima, Yoko Taro, when all these guys are no longer there, and forgive me, I don't know the Dragon Quest devs, but you could feel free to throw them in there too. I just don't, even Yoshi P with FF14, FF16, when all these guys retire and are gone, what even is a Square Enix anymore? It's just a sticker that gets put on the box that has a history of making games you like. But when the people who had a history of making the games you like are gone, what does that sticker even mean anymore? So I personally, when I look at the forecast, 20 years from now, I don't really think Square Enix is here anymore. I think they've been bought out by Tencent or they're bought out by Sony, and it just becomes a glorified brand that sits under a much larger umbrella. So I'm optimistic that Nomura will finish his story by then, but I do think Disney will eventually want to pivot this series, but they will leave Sora and his legacy alone so that they can continue to re-release those games, make money that way, continuously port those games, make money that way. Because I would hope that there's somebody in that giant skeleton of a corporation that's realized that, if you, for instance, like when they bought out Star Wars, perhaps it would have been smarter to leave George's legacy alone and jump 10,000 years in the future and tell your own story. But instead, they decided to play with the original narrative, and what it's done is shoo away a lot of original fans or shoo away a lot of old-time fans. That I don't want to see happen with Kingdom Hearts. Regardless of what you think of Star Wars, I'm not trying to get into that per se, but I think that's what I want to see avoided for Kingdom Hearts, is like, look, the fan base loves Sora. We love where his story began and ended. Leave that alone. Preserve it. Make it your job to preserve it and keep it accessible on modern gaming platforms, whether that means ports with quality of life updates, or maybe even one day things advance to the point that a remake is necessary. But ultimately, preserve Nomura and Sora's story so that nothing that comes after influences it after the fact. That said, I do see Disney pulling away and then maybe wanting to do their own thing with it, with their own characters and their own approach. That's just sort of my read on the situation.
Okay, that very well said. I can see that we have the same opinion on this. I do want to challenge you a little bit because
Let's go.
I feel like with Disney, right? Disney and Kingdom Hearts, sure, they've gotten a little less shy with it recently, I guess, especially, I mean, they're always rolling out the merch and stuff. I'd argue that Disney does not really, first of all, they have a very deep respect for Nomura and his creation, it seems. So that seems to already be in the bag based on the Super Smash Brothers interviews. They were fully on board to put Sora in, and they were like, it's actually Nomura's call because we want to make sure he's okay with it. He was the one kind of holding back on it at first. So it's pretty clear they have a very deep respect for Nomura's creation, and they have that relationship with Square Enix, even if they fully own the IP. But also, like, how often have we seen, so far at least, Disney even try to do their own things with Kingdom Hearts? There's Kingdom Hearts VCast on the ancient mobile phones that, nobody played and people barely knew existed. And then they did start development on another mobile title around 2015-ish, around the same time Union Cross was on the horizon. That was Kingdom Hearts Fragmented Keys, was being developed by an in-house Disney studio. Maybe some people don't know about that in the chat, but it was a story maybe 10 years ago. And outside of that, they really don't touch Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts coming to Fortnite even would be like kind of them breaking new ground, I feel like.
I could see it happening,
Kingdom
to be
Hearts
honest.
out there.
I see it happening.
So I feel like I understand your point with Disney and Star Wars. They're like, oh, everybody loves Star Wars, cultural phenomenon. We want to continue it. We want to capitalize on our acquisition here. Kingdom Hearts, it's a little bit more niche. It has more of a dedicated fan base, especially if we're talking about the conversation, is the peak behind us or not? I don't know that Disney would be so gung-ho about doing anything with Kingdom Hearts. I feel like they might sit on it.
Is there an example, let's say, of Disney owning an IP that has a clear audience but was ultimately abandoned? You see, if Kingdom Hearts was owned by Nintendo, I would almost be certain that one day it'll collect dust on the shelf, like so many of my favorite franchises that have come before it that Nintendo has just given up on, which is fine. That's the way of the world. But is there an example of Disney owning an IP? Because like you said, it's different than an acquisition, right? It's not like they acquired Kingdom Hearts and they have to do something with it. It is very possible they look at it and they say, look, we've made our investment on this. We've done what we can do with this. Any further tampering with it might destroy any goodwill we have with the remaining fan base. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's any sort of example we could point to of them having an IP that again has an audience, but they never really do anything with.
Yeah, I mean, my obvious input to that would be Kingdom Hearts in a way, because all they do is that
It's true, I
merch,
guess.
and
Yes, it's true.
I mean they're free to do that merch. I feel like they would keep rolling the merch after, because that's kind of like, it doesn't take that much like thinking and planning to just release existing merch for what exists. But in terms of putting that investment into a completely new project, new writers, new directors, a game studio that has to develop the game if Square's not involved, I feel like that's just too much investment. Or at least something I haven't seen from Disney in terms of their investment in Kingdom Hearts. They did get a bit of a wake-up call with Kingdom Hearts 3 in particular, seeing how hyped people were for that game. But I don't think it's on that level where Disney in their daily operations, like, I don't think Disney is thinking about Kingdom Hearts. And you could take that as a good or a bad thing, but I feel like they're not really thinking about Kingdom Hearts. They let Square sail the ship and they approve or deny things, and that's how they do it.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I'm of the camp that I'm fine with them staying as far away from it as possible. And I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan who hates the Disney stuff. I love the Disney stuff. In fact, I want more Mickey, Donald, and Goofy and Sid. So I'm not coming from this perspective of like Disney bad. I've got my reservations about the corporation, but that's another conversation for another podcast. That said, it's a Disney-owned property, but like, let's be real here. It's a Square Enix-developed experience. Like, there's no history of Disney ever developing an experience similar to Kingdom Hearts. Whereas Square Enix has decades of creating experiences comparable to Kingdom Hearts. And what I mean by that is video game RPGs with either action or turn-based combat. So, again, it's a Disney-owned thing, but I think kind of what you're getting at is like, there's just nothing at Disney that would even know what to do with this. It's like, so I see sort of that angle as well, that, it is very possible this is something that just becomes part of Disney history, because the truth is, with something that's been entirely developed by Square Enix, what do you do when that's not available to you anymore? So I think that's go ahead.
Yeah, and like just thinking about it even more, like Disney owns Kingdom Hearts, but they don't really have ownership of Kingdom Hearts, and that's of their own choosing. It seems like they're like, hey, Square, you made this, we're working with you, we love it. Let's continue. I feel like that's pretty much their role, and they could do consulting for Disney Worlds maybe.
Yep.
And how their characters appear, obviously, and that's it. Can you imagine someone in like a Disney studio or a brand new studio, a brand new team, looking at Kingdom Hearts, figuring out looking at even Nomura's writing for the series,
the
and
lore,
then trying to emulate and build upon that? That's a Herculean task to ask of any studio at Disney, I feel like.
Well, especially because like when a writer has either retired or stepped down, or maybe they've moved on to the next life, you almost start to see a fan base collectively make it its duty to preserve the works in a sense. And again, without getting too much into it, I see this a lot with Lord of the Rings fans. Again, I'm not a fan of the show Rings of Power, but every time that show contradicts what Tolkien wrote, there's an explosion on the internet of people who have to let you know about it. And I'm saying to their credit, by the way, to their credit, I think these comes not from a place of people acting in bad character. I think these are fans who are passionate about what a man wrote and are making it their business to make sure it's properly preserved. However, when something is owned by Amazon, good luck. Again, another conversation for another day, but I do see something similar happening with Nomura, where it's like when he's no longer involved or when he's no longer with us, like fans are going to want to preserve what he wrote. So if somebody writes something that contradicts what a Heartless is, like people are going to spurg about it. And I think Disney is starting to maybe learn that like if you were to do something, like you need someone who knows everything. Because if you don't, there's someone out there who does, and they'll make sure to let you know that you messed up. So, I don't know. Do you have any sort of like feeling on that?
I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Kingdom Hearts in particular, I already know this fan base. Anything that does not seem Nomura like in a new release, it's the guillotine.
That's it. I mean, dude, you gave Final Fantasy characters more of a back seat, and you saw a tidal wave of people show up. you know? And I love Final Fantasy, but I was also of the point that, like, look, I'd rather a character like Yozora, which is like a revived Final Fantasy concept, be an integral part of the story, rather than try to get Final Fantasy characters involved in a crossover sort of side questy sense. Not that was the case. I think the Radiant Garden Gang was awesome, but I also think they served their purpose. There's really nothing left to do with the Radiant Garden Gang. So, I mean, as far as the Final Fantasy angle on the series, I much prefer what's happening with Yozora and Quadratum be taking place, and then maybe we can meet in the middle on bringing back a Sephiroth boss fight. But as much as I love Final Fantasy, I'm not sure you ever need to have them as closely involved as, say, the crew was during the Battle of the Thousand Heartless ever again. I'm much more interested in this revived Yozora concept becoming a key part of the narrative instead.
Interesting. So, regarding Final Fantasy, I do agree with you on Yozora's point. I feel he's a very special case with the revived versus 13 Noctis, whatever is going on here. Very interested to see. That is something that's very exciting for the series. It's something that, was just hinted at in the original Kingdom Hearts 3, but was very much solidified with Remind. Again, just points go to Remind. But in terms of Final Fantasy's involvement in Kingdom Hearts, and this is something I'm very opinionated on as well. I feel that it's not the brand name Final Fantasy that I'm speaking about when I say I want Final Fantasy in Kingdom Hearts. It's the feeling, the Final Fantasy feeling, that Square Enix vibe. This is a collaboration between Square Enix and Disney. And when you remove that Final Fantasy element, it starts to feel like only a Disney game.
Right.
And that's cool, but that's not what I'm looking for in Kingdom Hearts. Like I said, Kingdom Hearts feels so special. It's an experience outside of anything else in gaming. So I need the mesh. I need the mix to truly be there. I need the ridiculous anime, Nomura, Square Enix looking characters to be interacting with the Disney characters. I need a central hub. I need those characters to be involved in some way in a plot that's not, a Disney World specific plot, or maybe them added as a little topping of a Disney specific plot like Olympus tends to do most of the time with the Final Fantasy characters in Hades. I need that element. And when I say I need Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, that's what I mean. I don't necessarily mean the brand name. The brand name is absolutely welcome because who doesn't love the fan service? But I do need that aspect. And Yozora counts. He counts as Final Fantasy to me under that definition.
Absolutely. I mean, and I don't know how much you know about Final Fantasy and stuff like that, but seeing him put Sora in crystal stasis, winking at the Fabula Nova Crystallis continuum, is some of the most... That's where I always felt very confused, because I came away from KH3, the whole experience, Remind Limit Cut included, and I understand some people's gripes about there not being enough characters there, but when you're talking about Final Fantasy as an energy, as an atmosphere, I think the series has never been more Final Fantasy. Between Foretellers, Master of Masters, Yozora, Quadratum, all of these things, it's like the Final Fantasy DNA, from what I can see as someone who's been a fan my whole life, seems to actually be stronger than it used to be. I mean, and, unless you are such a nerd about Final Fantasy, it may be hard to understand, but like Donald casting Zetaflare, I don't think how people understand how big a deal that is. It's not like you can't rename Zetaflare Special Beam Cannon and it's going to mean the same thing. To a Final Fantasy fan, the fact that it was Zetaflare meant that at the time, Donald Duck, as far as Square Enix canon goes, cast a more powerful spell than any other mage in Square's history. We've seen a lot of Gigaflares, but up until that point, Donald became the first individual mage to cast Zeta flare, which is why it's not an accident that it was able to stop Lingering Will for a time. That was a real deal spell. And again, lots of the spells come from Final Fantasy, Thundaga, Waterga, like the naming schemes and all of that. That DNA, it means something to people. And again, Donald casting Zeta Flare meant something more than look at this big beam he's firing. What it means is this duck rather, is capable of things that your favorite Final Fantasy mage isn't. And again, the implications of that are beyond, in my opinion, beyond comprehensible. For instance, the only other Zeta Flare that I've seen came from Bahamut. Now, Bahamut was supposed to be one of the primary antagonistic forces in Versus 13. So let's go over that again. Bahamut, who casts Zeta Flare, is supposed to be one of the primary antagonists in Versus 13. Here we are with KH3, contained with tons of Versus 13 winks, and here's Donald casting Zeta Flare. These are the kind of things I mean where it's like Kingdom Hearts is layered in a way that depending on what you know about certain things, people see entirely different things happening. And I think that's part of what makes the series so appealing and so much fun. But yeah, that's my little ramble. I don't even know how I got there. But yeah.
Absolutely. It's all super cool. And I agree that all of that stuff that you've mentioned is very real and it's very present. And I love to see that. I love to see that in Kingdom Hearts. I would say that to your point at the end where Kingdom Hearts can be perceived in different ways by different fans based on the layers that they connect with. When I was in the camp of the original Page 3 release, did not have enough of that Final Fantasy Square Enix energy. It wasn't because it wasn't, Yozora or anything. It was just the lack of it being, I don't want you to need to look for it, I guess is the right way to put it. I feel like you shouldn't need to look for that energy because the energy should always be exuding from Kingdom Hearts at a base. And I feel like they've already rectified that in the direction they're going with. It's not a worry for me today, but it is a part of the experience that I initially had.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment. And I think one of the issues that you're kind of getting at where it's like you shouldn't have to look for it is that, not everyone is as much of a sicko as I am. Not everyone knows what the hell a Fabula Nova Crystallis is. Not everybody knows the connections between Zeta Flare and Bahamut and Versus 13. So, like, I see your point that it's like, you shouldn't have to be, as I say, a total sicko to be able to pick up on these things. There is an importance to having it right in your face with fighting Cloud and Olympus and the Final Fantasy characters being homeless in Traverse Town and them building up Hollow Bastion back into Radiant Garden with Scrooge McDuck and all that. There's definitely, I see what you're saying. And even with like sort of the designs, right? Like you look at KH2, and I think it's the reason why it's a lot of people's favorite, is it sort of is oozing with a lot of that sort of in-your-face Final Fantasy. And a lot of that came from, say, Hollow Bastion, Cloud, Sephiroth, Leon, Tifa, everything to that degree. But also in that, like, a lot of the character designs, too, were more reflective of that. Like, Diz looks like a Final Fantasy character. Xemnas looks like... that's a good way to put it, honestly, just by the villain alone. Xemnas really looks like a Final Fantasy character. Xehanort looks like a quintessential Kingdom Hearts character. Nothing wrong with either approach, but I think it sort of speaks to your point that there were just a lot of things in the earlier stages of Kingdom Hearts that were very like in your face Final Fantasy. Whereas now, as I was sort of getting at, it's been more subtly and cleverly woven into the DNA. But I think, like you're saying, though, there is something important about it being sort of very easily noticeable that you don't have to go looking for it, like you said.
Absolutely. You just completely illustrated my point there. And I feel like there's just real value in that. It's part of the Kingdom Hearts identity. It's part of the Kingdom Hearts DNA. Nomura can say as much as he wants Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy is not needed for Kingdom Hearts, but Final Fantasy under that definition is very much needed, and I'm very glad to see a return to form because it's from Kingdom Hearts 4 Trailer 1 and Remind, it's super in your face now.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
seems like there was just like kind of a swing of the pendulum going on here.
Well, I think what's important, and I think maybe where they got a little tripped up is, one thing that they definitely showed us with Remind, with Limit Cut, they'll take fan feedback very seriously. And I think that's as virtuous as it is dangerous, because fans don't always know what they're talking about. But it's very clear they understood there was this void that needed to be filled of not just Final Fantasy characters, but like you said, the energy. Because it's easy for me post Remind Limit Cut Yuzora to say, oh no, KH3's got it in its DNA. It's woven into there. But at a base game level, it's nowhere near as obvious. So I think like you said, for the future, don't really need to worry about that. But I think what they sort of learned is that, look, Kingdom Hearts is still appealing to a lot of young kids and a lot of young players, but the core of their fan base is always, people in their like late 20s and 30s, people who played these games when they were kids. And I think more than just this yearning for Final Fantasy, I think there's a yearning for just a little bit more of a mature aesthetic or a mature energy that doesn't clash with the sort of more youthful energy that Disney provides. I think people were longing for a little bit more of that balance, especially now that a lot of us have gotten older.
I completely agree with that sentiment, and I'm really happy with the direction that they're taking. In terms of you mentioning that they very clearly listen very closely to fan feedback, I just wanted to highlight that and say Kingdom Hearts has always been that way, actually. They are really good at listening to what the fans say. I would actually say they have a habit of overcorrecting fans' gripes from the previous games in Kingdom Hearts. Like Kingdom Hearts 1 to 2 is like the perfect example. People might say the Kingdom Hearts 1 combat, it was a little clunky, the camera. What did Kingdom Hearts 2 do? It nailed down on making like the smoothest combat experience ever with a completely revolutionized camera and all that. But
well, I mean, I will say they're perfect. I don't need to say it. This is why you're here. Keep going.
Yeah, at the expense of the world design not having that Kingdom Hearts 1 nuance that it used to have, that interactivity, and the world, for lack of a better word, being made into just battlefield rooms. And then they had to overcorrect that. I wouldn't say overcorrect, but they had to correct that with the Cavern of Remembrance in Final Mix and finally give you some sort of what they could, platforming challenges and other ways to explore an area. So Kingdom Hearts is always going on this jumping trajectory of overcorrecting and then correcting again. And Kingdom Hearts 4 might just be, another step in that direction.
Well, that's why, like, one thing I hope that we don't lose, and I think based on the trailer, we're going to see more of an evolution of this mechanic, is one of the things I loved so much about KH3's gameplay was air step. I think the air step mechanic is, not just from a combat standpoint, from a platforming standpoint, is such a great idea for the series and an expansion of it. And KH3 had its criticisms, and like you said, I don't want to see an overcorrection. Reaction commands are back, but I don't want combat that relies too heavily on it. Make it a nice treat, like you did in the Limit Cut fights, but don't make it something that's going to be a part of like every fight that we get into. So there's a little bit of that fear of an overcorrection, but getting back to air step, one thing that I did think was cool, and honestly, I guess I'll put the KH4 trailer on screen for this, that Sora's got that sort of slingshot air step now instead. So instead of just air stepping, your Keyblade's going to hook on to a faraway point and then pull you in, which is cool because Xehanort uses a similar tactic to that in his Limit Cut fight. So, these are the kind of things that excite me about the future, is like, if you wanted to improve on air step, imagine a slingshot that not only can sling you to a far point away on the screen, but could pull in an enemy, the way Link does in Smash. So you don't have the option of just sort of launching yourself towards a point. or towards an enemy, you now have the option of being able to rail that enemy in towards you. Because again, as a KH3 supremacist, I think the mob fights are probably what could use the most improving. Now, again, I think a lot of those complaints come from people not using air step enough, because if you use air step throughout a mob fight, it's nowhere near as tedious or difficult. But I think what they're taking is one way to make mob fights easier is add a sort of slingshot ability, and I'm just speculating at this point, to like reel an enemy into you as opposed to always needing to warp around the arena.
Yeah, and good call out on the air step there, and the reference or presumed evolution of it in the Kingdom Hearts 4 trailer. I feel like that's just a very much a green flag for that mechanic, and probably safety from overcorrection in that sense. And touching on the reaction commands point, because I'm of course very excited about reaction commands returning, being a hallmark feature from my favorite game. I do wonder what they mean by reaction commands, actually, because in Kingdom Hearts 2, there are reaction commands. There's kind of like two categories of a reaction command. There's the true QTE, cutscene, cinematic boss battle reaction command, which is, it's cool, and I'd love to see them in certain boss battles. But there's also the kind of mob fight reaction command utility, the ones that you can kind of play with the different use cases with on smaller Heartless and Nobodies skill check reaction commands, where you kind of interact with the enemy in the battlefield in a very specific way to trigger it. I don't know if the dev team has that in mind when they're saying they're returning reaction commands. So I'm also cautious on the return of reaction commands, and I'm hoping to see a lot of the latter that I mentioned, but only time will tell.
Only time will tell. I do think we will mostly be safe. I just don't want it to turn into press triangle to win, which I think can be reductive. I'm not saying that's how it was in KH2. I've just seen a lot of other games where the reaction command turns into a glorified pause button. Like, I mean, Square Enix themselves did this. I mean, I know it's an old story, but like that old Avengers game they made, the reaction commands were glorified pause buttons. It would prompt you to press the button for the command, but you could just leave the game there and wait. There was no like
we don't want to see.
Right. The good news is that FF16 had a lot of QTEs in their boss battles, and I thought the way they did it was just so good. Like, it's why I'm so bullish on the boss fights of KH4, because if FF16 was designed to be a taste of that, I can only imagine what an evolution of that experience is going to feel like with KH4. I do got a question here that I think could be fun to engage with from Bloy Action, who says, do you guys think Sora is a master now? What's your take on
that? I have a pretty funny take on it, because Kingdom Hearts through itself has proven to me that the title of master is truly just an arbitrary title decided by those in charge. Like, Yen Sid, I guess, would be the authority on this at this point. The master is deemed by the trainer of the person, and I think Sora has far outclassed every other Keyblade master to be shown in his feats, and it's a result of being the main character of the first games and saving the world from multiversal threats multiple times early on in the series. But I would say Sora is overqualified to be a master, and he's just waiting for someone to tell him. He also has the power of waking, which is in his favor, which is, again, I guess, another requirement somebody decided needed to be a master. He's proven on that aspect as well. So he's pretty much someone who's overqualified and is just waiting for his official title, is the way I see it. I don't know if you have a completely different take, but I do don't put much stock into the master title.
I do actually have a much different take. I don't think Sora is overqualified, because becoming a Keyblade master is not a matter of how much power one wields, right? When when Ericus decided who passed the Mark of Mastery exam, it wasn't a matter of, well, who was powerful enough to pass it. It's about following the rules. And Terra broke the rules, giving into darkness for that brief moment. So that was enough to disqualify him. It wasn't a lack of ability, a lack of athleticism, a lack of accolades or feats. It was simply, can you follow the rules? And in the case of Aqua, such as her arc in Birth by Sleep, she did, she could, and she would. Terra, not so much. He was the rebel. He was a bit of a rule breaker, hence why he had that sort of darkness arc and didn't qualify to be master. Now, as far as Sora is concerned, I believe in the eyes of Xehanort, Sora is a master. And I actually think when he hands him the Keyblade and says, very well done, that more symbolically than literally is Sora's bequeathment. The way Terra bequeathed Riku, the way Aqua, in a sense, bequeathed Kairi, I believe more symbolically than literally, Xehanort handing him that Keyblade saying, very well done, is in a sense Sora's version of that. However, it's not Xehanort's call anymore. It's Yen Sid's call. And it's the same call as Ericus. It's about following the rules. Now, Sora was told you need to obtain the power of waking. But here's the thing about Sora, and I think Yen Sid knows this about him. Sora is not designed to become a master. He's the rule breaker. He's the virus in the master system that Brain wanted. Again, he's the virus. He usurped the Keyblade from Riku. He threw everything off. He's a wild card, man. He's designed to be that way. He's the rule breaker. So that's why in Dream Drop Distance, during that Mark of Mastery exam, Riku passed because he followed all the rules. Sora failed the Mark of Mastery exam, and again, not due to a lack of his own power or capability, but due to a lack of his ability to follow those rules, follow those steps. Sora, don't chase the dreams. And then you get to KH3. Well, Sora, you want to be a master, you need the power of waking. And Sora, in very Sora fashion, learns the power of waking, but uses it in a way that breaks the rules, that is a nature taboo. It's like, I think the Mark of Mastery exam is actually very useful, and when you see what it's trying to tell you narratively, is that Sora's not a Keyblade master, but it doesn't make him better or worse than anyone who is or isn't. It's just the kind of Keyblade wielder he is, in that he's designed to break these rules. He's the bull in the china shop. You know, he's going to use the power of waking that's going to revive dead people in an unorthodox way, but it's also going to open up this void that's going to drag him into a whole other universe entirely. This is what he's designed. This is what he's built for. And I think the Mark of Mastery exam reveals that to you. And then when you again reconsider that it's not a matter of you're powerful enough to be the master. It's that, do you follow the rules that the institution of Keyblade Master puts on you? And Aqua does, and Riku does, but Sora does not. That's the point of those taboos. And I believe Xehanort didn't either. This is why, the master is in Xehanort's ear. And remember, Xehanort is another one who committed these nature taboos, as we learned in Remind, when Sora kind of bumps into Terranort and is like, oh, you think you're the only one who travels between times? And he's like, oh, and he says to him, I know I'm rambling here, but he says to him like, oh, you too took the forbidden path. You know, the master says to Xehanort, like, oh, you're going to let the exam decide? It's sort of this idea of going above the exam. And Sora and Xehanort sort of mirror each other in that way.
Yeah, so first of all, all your points on the Mark of Mastery and being a master, absolutely bulletproof. You're completely right about Terra, and you're right about the need to follow the rules to be deemed a master by someone in authority. That is absolutely true. And in that point, I mean, you actually made me consider, like, I see what you're saying. I absolutely see what you're saying, and I do agree with your point. But that raises the question for me, like, is being a master really important? Is it something Sora needs to have? It's not who he is. And he clearly, you know, is able to carve an interesting narrative for us and save the day time and time again. Without that, all the masters pretty much depend on him at this point. When things get rough, does Sora even need to be a master?
No, and I think he's designed not to be, because you got to think about Yen Sid, right? Yen Sid gave up the Keyblade. He gave it up. He was a Keyblade master, but he gave it up. He walked away. That tells me that he observes that something is inherently wrong with sort of the institution of the Keyblade. Yen Sid, even though he is a master mentoring the next gen, he's observed something is wrong, so he's hung his Keyblade up. And if you sort of see the way he reacts in these scenes, it seems like he's sort of goading Sora. He knows what he's doing in a sense. So when you say does Sora need to be a master, I think the answer is like he needs to not be. In a weird way, like he needs to not be, because for all we know, the whole Keyblade Master system was instituted by the Master of Masters as a way to control the outcomes of the future. And maybe Sora, as the virus, which I think he is, his job is to just, again, he's the bull in the china shop. He's not gonna be the master. He's not going to be a Keyblade master, because a guy like him, he's going to learn the power of waking and is just going to use it in a taboo way. Like it's part of what I think makes his character super interesting in a way that it wasn't pre-Dream Drop Distance.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that point, and I think that's, like you said, that is what is making the story interesting. And, you know, that does play into my point about Keyblade Master being that arbitrary title that those in authority deem it to be. But since that's a shared aspect of the viewpoint, I can totally get on board with what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess all I'm saying is, like, I agree with everything you're saying, but I think what I'm pointing to is that it's all by design. And that Sora not being called a master is supposed to, like, at its core, feel and look wrong, but it's supposed to, that intrigue is supposed to be what makes you start peeling layers and going, wait, you know, he shouldn't be a master. Look at what Yen Sid's doing. Power of waking, to nature taboos. Maybe this is all instituted by the master. But anyway, it's all very interesting. We are coming up on 2 hours here, so I did want to take a minute to pause and ask, was there anything you wanted to talk about or discuss today that we haven't gotten to, or that you maybe wanted to bring up?
I don't think there is anything too much. I guess the only thing I can really think of, and this is something I feel like you and I have connected on pretty early on in our talks, is how do you feel even beyond Missing Link? What is your stance? Because I can tell you're obviously a huge Union Cross fan. You're a fan of the narrative. You're a fan of what it adds to Kingdom Hearts. What is your perspective on the Kingdom Hearts mobile game model and where they're going with that? You can include Missing Link, but even beyond that, how it was with Union Cross, how they would do a new one. We touched on it a little bit with the net positive aspect, but I want a really defined answer, I think
it's a good question. I think they should never go back to mobile games, period. And if they do, it should be something silly, niche, and unimportant. But I think ultimately leaving those games behind and that method of delivery behind is for the best. That said, I do want to take a moment and say that drip feed narrative that the mobile games allowed did something for the community that'll never be done again. Giving us all something to discuss every few months or so, major story beats, major story breaks. I don't think that kind of drip feed storytelling ever comes back. I think it was an exciting time in the Kingdom Hearts world, but I think it's overstayed its welcome. I think Dark Road's failure proves that from a customer standpoint, and I think Missing Link's failure proves that from a developer standpoint. I think it's just washed, it's just done. Now, as for maybe what they should do in the future and what to do with that, my very biased opinion is they should make an MMO like FF14. Not as big scale, because you're not going to have, Kingdom Hearts is just not going to have the reach that Final Fantasy does. I don't see it becoming a World of Warcraft scaled MMO the way Final Fantasy did. But not every MMO needs to be the biggest thing on the planet. There's a lot of MMOs out there thriving with smaller, niche, more pocket-sized audiences. And that's actually what I would like to see from Kingdom Hearts, because you can do it in a way that doesn't disrupt the pacing of the current narrative. You can remake Union. Everyone wants the Union Cross remake, right? We talked a little bit about remakes today. No, Kingdom Hearts 1 seems to be a divisive topic for a remake, but there seem to be a lot of people who would love a chance to re-engage with what happened in Union Cross in a more engaging manner. Because you're right to observe, I'm a huge fan of the Foretellers, huge fan of the Master of Masters, huge fan of everything going on there. I did not like playing Union Cross. I maybe put like 15 hours into it, waiting for it to just like get better, and it just really never did. So I really am not a fan of that kind of gameplay. What made Missing Link look appealing was it looked like a 3D action Kingdom Hearts game on the phone, which I think was a better angle. But I think what they need, but if they were to go back to something like that, no more pulled punches. You have to make a full-blown MMO. You have to. Let us all have a room in Daybreak Town, and, we go on quests to collect items to decorate our rooms and get new gear and get new cool stuff. And, I just think that's what they need to do. Because, again, it would solve that problem of giving Kingdom Hearts fans a chance to talk and engage with each other and actually socialize and actually do things together. One thing I was really looking forward to were raid battles in Missing Link. Things like that, I think, could be a lot of fun. Because the single player experience is on lock. You know what your fan base wants. They want the number titled. They want the number titled action RPG experience. If you're going to deviate from that, the only thing I could really see them doing would be an MMO. And I see the chat is talking about a fighting game. I would love a fighting game too. And you know who else wanted a fighting game? Nomura. And Nomura was making a Kingdom Hearts fighting game, but Disney shut it down. Disney doesn't want that. So what was supposed to be the Kingdom Hearts fighting game turned into Final Fantasy Dissidia, which again Go ahead.
I think we might be splitting hairs on this.
Okay.
I was looking into this years ago, and I know that's the common story that Disney stepped in and said, "Hey, you can't make a Kingdom Hearts fighting game." And it's been a few years since I've looked at it now, so I'd have to look at it again. But I believe when I was looking into it last time, Nomura, the clarification on Nomura's words was he was making it, he wanted to make it, but he made a judgment call and felt Disney wouldn't approve of it, so
I
he
see.
didn't even take it to them.
Okay, interesting.
But we'll have to verify. I don't know.
I mean, either way, the point being, I don't think we're getting it, because I think it was already on the table, has been taken off the table. I don't see it happening. I think one day a Square Enix fighting game could happen that maybe Kingdom Hearts characters get involved in. But I don't see the fighting game happening. I really think their only options now are just stick to the action RPG combat, be it you make KH4 or Birth by Sleep 2, whatever you want to do. You either do that or you have to pivot to something multiplayer. I don't think I think gaming has changed so much that Chain of Memories conceptually can't be made today because it's too big of a risk.
Oh, yeah, completely different point. And I don't even know if this is a valuable thing to say, but I remember you mentioned that you love Chain of Memories so much that you would love to see a spiritual Chain of Memories too.
I really would.
Yeah, one of the things I was hoping for before Kingdom Hearts 3 released, there was obviously, mission that needed to be done to wake up Ventus in the Land of Departure, which would bring a lot of, Castle Oblivion potential world questions into the equation. Something I used to fantasize about Kingdom Hearts 3 was having a short, Castle Oblivion-ish world, and along with that mission with Aqua to wake Ventus up, and having a little bit of a temporary revisit to the card combat for maybe even just 30 minutes on the way to wake up Ventus. Wouldn't have that been sick?
You see, and this is why I break things down into sicko and normie, because I think sickos would love that, but normies would loathe it.
Probably.
And
they have to make it harmless enough to not, not upset the normies.
I think they may be wise to make that an optional side quest. Something like that, if you were going to try and include that. Because that's one thing I would like to see, I guess, just spurring off this topic. Kingdom Hearts is not very good about mixing up their gameplay. What I mean by that is I think their core gameplay is so strong that it feels like so many of these mini game segments are like forcibly being like fed, like I'm being force fed mini games that I don't want. When I'm like, dude, I love your gameplay. I just want to play the game you made. Stop forcing me to do these mini games. Please make them optional, because that'd probably be my biggest criticism of KH3 is that the gameplay loop was too often disrupted by these mini games where Kingdom Hearts already has a gameplay loop of variety with the gummy ship. I mean, you're switching from Legend of Zelda to Star Fox at a moment's notice to be reductive about it, right? Is you're switching from action RPG to rail shooter at a moment's notice. You already have this variety loop in your gameplay. Stop force feeding me like fruit volleyball and sledding. Like, just stop. Don't do that anymore. Make it optional. I enjoy the mini games. I know it sounds like I don't, but when they're forcibly disrupting the core gameplay that is so strong, in my opinion, when we already have variety with the gummy ships, it all just seems so conjumbled. You know what I mean? For lack of a better term. I don't even know if that's a word, but it all just seems so discombobulated, I suppose I would say.
Landy, I want to give you a standing ovation right now for that point. I completely agree. And this is why when I talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 and I mention, like, oh yeah, my least favorite worlds in my experience were like the Caribbean and Toy Box for me. I get crazy looks left and right because a lot of people, that's the highlight of their game. That's where they felt like, they had the peak of their casual experience or whatever. But I play Kingdom Hearts because I like to play Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
I don't want to play a different game in a world, And I feel like previous entries were pretty good about, like, at least when they deviated extremely, Pride Lands, Atlantica, all that. They were always like kind of 100 Acre Wood, you could even throw in there, were like optional forays. In Kingdom Hearts 3, those worlds are not optional and they're quite meaningful to the game. Like they're absolutely necessary to play. So that is something I'd like to see changed up too. I'd like to see more emphasis on let me play Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, it almost feels like a lack in confidence of what they've created. It's like, do you feel like you have to make me play fruit volleyball? Like, do you feel like you have to do this to keep me engaged? Because you don't. Like, you've already made something tremendous. Don't. I have a similar criticism for FF7 Rebirth. I think Rebirth did this too much. Like, you already have the action RPG in Queen's Blood. Stop, like, forcibly feeding me all these mini games. Just make it optional on the airship for part 3, for God's sake. Anyway,
absolutely. When it's optional, zero gripes. Do what you want.
Zero gripes. And I like the mini games. That's what's crazy. It's like, I like them. Yeah. When I'm trying to defeat darkness, I don't want to go sledding. I'll save it for when darkness is defeated.
Yeah, exactly.
But all right, listen, man, that's 2 hours on the dot, man. Geez, I feel like you and I could probably keep going for another 2 hours, but I mean, I guess
I think we've discovered that today.
Yeah, but I guess what I really want to, I guess before any sort of wrapping up does, I kind of want to put you on your soapbox for a minute, because at the start of the podcast, I asked you what I ask everybody, why this series, why Kingdom Hearts, why did this captivate you in the way it did? So here's what I'm going to ask you. What does Kingdom Hearts need to do to make you feel that magic again? Now that they haven't recently, but they've been away for a long time. We've all lived 2 to 3 character arcs since Kingdom Hearts 3. So we're all different men and women than we were. What's it going to take in Kingdom Hearts 4 to really, really make you feel that magic again?
Yeah. Okay, so we've touched on these points little by little all throughout the podcast, but if I were to definitively put it in one answer, what would it take from Kingdom Hearts in the future to have me experience that magic again? And at that point, we would be reaching maybe another peak, so to speak. I need to see. I always tend to think gameplay first because that's just what I talk about the most. So I need to see gameplay on the level of thoughtfulness, design, and feel, at least to Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. Like, absolutely it stunned me on release. I want to see that on release in Kingdom Hearts 4. That alone in the first like 15 20 minutes of the game might have me like hooting and hollering, because that's just such an amazing achievement to see, and it would really give me confidence in the evolution of Kingdom Hearts. Where are we going now? Another thing we need to see that we've touched on is that Final Fantasy Square Enix energy. I don't want Disney energy removed. Like, the mix is the magic.
Yes.
But I feel like I want to see that in your face Final Fantasy Japanese developer energy, woven into the story, into the cutscenes, into the flair, into the worlds, just into the atmosphere. I need it everywhere. Just balance the juxtaposition of the Square and Disney is what makes Kingdom Hearts, and I want that strengthened as well. And then the last thing I guess I would give a whole category to is kind of cohesiveness in the, I'm not going to say the narrative, but in the experience of experiencing the narrative. I like that Kingdom Hearts is finally at a point where you can potentially go from Kingdom Hearts 3 to Kingdom Hearts 4. I want Kingdom Hearts 4, and some Kingdom Hearts fans may disagree with me on this, because there is a certain magic to, like, scouring different games and interviews and all that to put the pieces together. But I would love to see Kingdom Hearts 4 be able to tell the story it's trying to tell, introduce you to that new saga in its own presentation. I feel like that would be a very, very strong point for the Kingdom Hearts series, and it would probably expand the fan base a lot. It would build a lot of goodwill towards the series, and I think that would be amazing to see. All of those things combined would really make me feel like Kingdom Hearts has the magic again with the next entry.
Yeah, as was evident from a lot of this discussion, I echo your sentiments completely. I think the magic, like you said, the whole reason this series even happened is Square and Disney observed they were doing something similar. It was fantasy storytelling. Just Disney had a very Western approach to it. Square Enix had a very Eastern approach to it. And there is, like you said, the mix is the magic. The beauty of Kingdom Hearts is it really is this fusion of the East and the West, and I think that's not something anything else can pull off. So I would agree with everything you said, that in order for them to achieve that in this next title, they've got to hit on all those points that you so eloquently laid out. But on that note, we are going to wrap it up here, just north of the 2-hour mark. Dean, I really enjoyed talking to you, man. You're welcome on here anytime to talk Kingdom Hearts. I'm sure as things eventually kick up again, there will be plenty to talk about when things get rolling. But, in the meantime, I've got some of your links in our description, but where could the people find you? What do you got going on? The floor is yours.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure today, Landy. I mean, we could clearly talk for hours and hours, and that's a great thing to discover today.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I would definitely be open to speaking with you again. I feel like it's been an awesome experience. If anyone's looking to find me, I know drops of info from me can be scarce, much like the Kingdom Hearts 4 drop.
Very on brand.
I don't really produce content like I used to because I have other things going on in my life, but I'm always here for, anything that's major. Please, feel free to follow me and subscribe to me on all the links in the description. I'm not saying, I'm very open to coming back when my heart speaks to me, to have me really drives me to come back with something meaningful. And that's kind of the stance I take on content. You can find me on Twitter at Soralam1, YouTube Soralam1, Twitch at Soralam1. Your best chance of finding me in the near future would probably be Twitch with the live stream, since that's just generally easier to get into. But feel free to just stay updated on all of that. And I might not be, super loud, but I'm definitely here with you guys on the ride to Kingdom Hearts 4.
And, I really respect that approach. I tell my audience the same thing. Like, listen, I'm never going to fake it for you guys. I'm never going to make something unless I deep down want to make it. I'm never going to have a conversation unless I deep down want to have it. And, while things are slow, I think it's important to take it easy, man. Take it easy, because there will come a time where we are overwhelmed with trailers and plot points and characters and news and interviews. But that day is not today. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you all tuning in. Another great episode in the books. We'll be back at it again soon enough. But until next time, you all be good out there. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other.